Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our February Spider History. We can't have it without JR. What's going on, JR? The source of truth?
That's right.
Wow. So, in order to balance out the truth, we've got to add George. What's going on, George?
Wait a minute. I'm not the one who makes crap up all the time.
Well, I don't either. That's why I'm the source for truth.
I'm balancing out with truth by pointing out the
Wow.
fact that you routinely just make crap up on the fly.
Hi, 14 viewers. This is what you expect out of Spider History. These two fighting. I love it. Hornacek says, yes, I expected this to take place last year at 2/13. Yeah, I had the date, the year wrong. You don't want that. Let's see. We've got Nintendo handheld in the house. What's going on, sir? My goodness, the comments are coming in. SoFlo, what's going on? George has gone mountain man, is what Hornacek says. Got that beard going.
I have, and it's, you know what, it's scraggly and uneven too. And I just didn't have time to properly groom today. I had too much crap to do before the thing. And when it gets this unruly, when it's gone this long, like I can't even comb it anymore. It's going to do what it wants to. It looks like it has a wedge, like I'm, like a rapper from the 90s.
There you go.
Like a slant haircut or something like that. Except it's my beard.
Heroing says, hello, Brad, JR, and George. What's going on?
Hello.
Vinkman says, hello.
I don't know. I think it's the gray in George's beard which really, kind of sets it off. I mean, just he's aged considerably since the last time we talked.
Stop.
Look at that.
Hey, Matt says he's got a great question for JR. Do you want to know what it is? Do you want to answer it now? Why don't we do it now?
I don't know. I mean, if it's a great, if he's
let's do it now before the show.
If he asks it, will it be a great question anymore?
Matt, go ahead, ask it before we.
Is this like Schrodinger's question?
Michael Reed, what's going on? Yeah, Michael Reed, WandaVision's awesome. I watched the episode today. It was great.
Yeah, I'm getting more frustrated with the way Disney does things. So I mean that it should have dropped all at one time like Netflix.
I don't know. I think Spaced Out is kind of cool with this show.
The problem is that like the reason Netflix can do that, for example, is because it has a much larger subscriber base that's going to remain subscribed. With Disney Plus stuff, once The Mandalorian was done, that was their first original show. People dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 for Mandalorian, hey, people come back on. Season 2 drops off. We're done. Oh wait, okay, we'll come back from WandaVision. So they've got to get to this. No wonder they announced like 17,000 new Star Wars shows and 18,000 new Marvel shows, because they're going to have to get to a point where they're going to have a new episode of a series every
week. They need 52 weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
I mean, it's not our fault that they launched the damn site before they had the subsequent content, or that they decided not to go ahead and try to pile up on the content before launching the site.
Here we
not
go.
Our fault.
How many gang wars have been in Spider-Man's history?
JR is right in the middle of talking.
I know, but we got to get this show started.
Right in the middle of talking.
I got to push it.
Wow.
Keep going.
Wow.
Well, and Matt didn't come up with this question, so we're just going to have to
it's
move
on the
right
screen
on, right
now. How many gang wars have been in Spider-Man's history?
But he said it was a great question. That's not a great question.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Jeez.
I don't know. And now I'm gonna disappear like the troll off the bridge in Monty Python or something like that. I don't know.
Keep it Spider-Man related. You're gonna be like a blonde off a bridge. All right. So JR, we are headed back to Amazing Spider-Man 201. This is February of 1980.
Isn't it real quick? Isn't it true that like everything that we're covering this month and into next month is from the same year?
74 and. I don't know because no, it's not, because you tackle 139. Anyway, okay, JR, take me back to February of 1980. ASM 201, please.
40 years ago, and 40 years ago we were reading 40-cent comics, or at least those of us who are around. I mean, I think some of you, who are listening here might have, I mean, I'm not so sure your parents had gotten together in the back seat of the car yet. I
was in second grade.
Oh, so
1980.
but I just
was 5.
anyway, through just a little kind of hint of things to come, though. Through April, we're going to go back to the traditional kind of format of Spider history, where we we look at certain months and all the titles that came out that month, and then, folks, we're setting up for the summer, starting in May. It's going to be Maximum Garbage Summer.
Oh yeah, JR is going to tackle Maximum Carnage, folks. You ready for that?
Followed by The Child Within. So,
did you say May? Is that you say May is when?
Yeah,
we're
I
do
think.
it?
Yeah,
okay.
Maximum Garbage will start in May. Whether it'll be 2 or 3 months, I'm not sure. We've never done a 14-parter here on Spider History.
Just FYI, I'm going to be sick those months. Just letting you know now.
And then whenever Maximum Garbage ends, we start with The Child Within, and however long that takes, because that's a 7-parter. And so we're covered for the next several months, boys and girls. But anyway, we've got this one to take care of first. And I remember many years ago, because I was I think going on my junior year. I was in my junior year in high school.
Right.
And we had just got done with Marv Wolfman's Spider-Man number 200, which was the culmination of the awesome Spidey meets the Burglar saga. And I just remember being very excited for what was coming next in 201, because, Marv had really kind of brought his A game to Spider-Man, not only in setting up the Burglar story, but in seeding all kinds of other little subplots that were bubbling up to the surface, and we're going to start to bear fruit now that the Burglar story was out of the way. So I just was really, really excited. But unfortunately, what I didn't know then was that the Marv Wolfman's run was on its last legs already. The ascendance of Jim Shooter to editor-in-chief, while Shooter made the trains run on time, a lot of the conductors bailed during the early years of his tenure, and Wolfman was one of them. I think Wolfman had been one of the writer/editors that positions that Shooter was determined to eliminate, and so Wolfman departed soon after this and went on to write Teen Titans with George Perez. So
there you go.
He landed on his feet. But anyway, boys and girls, particularly since this is an issue with the Punisher, I can't help but start off with the first ad in this story for Crossman Guns. Okay. All right. This is a story with the Punisher. Our first ad is Crossman Guns. Okay. Because
what kind of gun is that in the ad, JR? Is that an AR-27? What is that?
It's an air gun. It's a BB gun. And
gonna put an eye out.
looking at this 40. I mean, here's the thing, people who look at this, would probably, without any kind of context for the times, would probably just be utterly appalled. I think we can look at it with a certain amount of irony and humor. Yeah. I've got to read this ad. The ad starts out, "The trouble with most air guns is they're too big for smaller kids to handle." So it's like, hey kids, boys, when you get rid of that bottle, or when you stop, feeding from the mama trough, it's time to start packing a gun.
The gun ad of the Punisher comic is tight.
And that's why we made the Crossman 788 BB Scout, the only pump-up BB gun designed especially for younger shooters.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't see that today.
Listen. The last time I even touched a BB gun was back in the early 90s. My mom put in a peach tree, and the squirrels were getting into the peaches, and my mom was like, "Oh hell no!" And she went on her own and was like, "By God, this ends." And she went out and got an equalizer. She got some kind of Daisy air rifle, and then my mom was picking squirrels out of trees, dude. It was. And I'm like, "Mom, why don't you just get some some of this red fox urine at Home Depot and sprinkle it around? It's supposed to keep them moist." She goes, "I tried that; it doesn't work." Click.
Don't eat my peaches.
Yeah.
I really like your peaches. I want to shoot at your tree.
Yeah.
Because part of being a kid is owning a Crossman.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's back in the time when we used to play with lawn darts and everybody was okay.
Yeah,
I don't think you'll see that on Marvel Unlimited over here.
And when our rad wagons were actually made of metal, things like that, and
wow.
But I grew up in a rural community, and so guns were a way of life. My father had guns; he was a hunter. He had rifles. My mom hated guns for various reasons. But the reason my brother and I never had guns or never had BB guns. Not only would we have shot our eyes out, but unfortunately, we probably would have kept pumping BBs into each other's, hind ends all the time. We would have been dangerous. We were the type of kids who shouldn't. It's one of those things about I don't want to go off on the gun thing, but it's like anything else. Some things certain people shouldn't have. And my brother
like a driver's license too, if you're going there.
Exactly.
I got my first rifle when I was 10, and I got my first pistol when I was in junior high.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was just, and most people, again, anyway, that's a big issue, but I just couldn't resist, particularly with the issue starring the Punisher. So anyway, the story begins. Spider-Man is just swinging by, being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. All of a sudden, this guy comes flying out of a building, and Spider-Man says, "Whoa,"
it's
so
on.
He says, "Well, let's take you back to where you came from, bud." And but oh boy, but he lands in the middle of a gangland shootout with the Punisher, and the Punisher is just, nailing goons right and left. So, but Spidey decides he's going to help the Punisher in a little less lethal way. So they defeat all the goons rather easily, but then for some reason, Spider-Man decides that he's going to lecture the dangerous man with automatic rifle.
You don't do that.
And so the Punisher's a man on a mission. So he ventilates Spidey. But as we find out, the Punisher was using rubber bullets.
I hated that so much back in the day. It was so candy ass.
Mercy bullets.
Well, now, we wouldn't hit Amazing Spider-Man 202 if it wasn't rubber bullets.
I hated it back in the day.
Yeah.
Mercy bullet. Now here's the thing though. Okay, what is a mercy bullet? Now I don't know if it's just hard rubber or if it has an anesthetic or whatever. But I mean, Spider-Man wakes up hours later. Okay. And he says, "Well, I'm not dead, so these goons aren't either." Okay. Now, here, true probably, but if a person of Spider-Man's constitution is hit by bullets, mercy or not, that knock him out for hours, what is in these things? They're not not harmless.
If I can play forensics, armchair forensics analyst for a moment, I think part of what probably happened was in Spider-Man's case, not the other goons, but in Spider-Man's case, is that the point of impact was so close to the shot being fired, so the force was much heavier with the mercy bullet than it would be from like shooting one of these goons across the room. So I think it was the impact and maybe the fact that like it hit him kind of like in the breadbasket that probably knocked the air right out of him, and he probably just passed out for like
someone get George a no prize. He explained it. So that's no prize worthy.
Wow, I didn't realize that George was our very own William Peterson. Holy cow! But I don't know. I still don't know any
CSI
bullet
Texas down there.
Any mercy bullet. Any mercy bullet that can take out Spider-Man. I don't think I want it. It wouldn't be an act of mercy if it hit me. That's for darn sure.
You ever see like the pictures of the people that get hit with the rubber bullets? Like these hippies at the G8 summit and stuff like that. Yeah, it looks like Cal kicked them in the face.
Also, when you play paintball, those guys, I wouldn't want to do that either. That looks painful.
Yeah, paintball. If it's close to you too, but yeah, paintball can leave a bruise or a welt. But yeah, the things they use, like these crowd control rounds, yeah, they'll leave a giant bump on your face.
No doubt.
It's something.
So Spider-Man gets up and says, "Well, I'm not dead, so these guys aren't either. I'll just call the cops, go develop some photos, get some grub, and I'll go see Aunt May."
There you go.
So Aunt May here is at the Restwell Nursing Home. And of course, boys and girls, remember, this is the same Aunt May who just recently helped hide the fake Martin Lee in a crawl space. This is the same fragile, frail Aunt May who stood toe-to-toe with a couple of red goblins in Amazing Spider-Man number 800. So
this is the same Aunt May that kicked the crap out of the chameleon?
Yep.
I'm sorry, that defeated chameleon with cookies. Pardon me.
Yep. So this poor old fragile woman, I think Aunt May's been taking some steroids in the in the interim. So anyway, so Robbie happens to drop in as well, and as you know, boys and girls, he gives Peter an update on things that are going on in the Daily Bugle because Peter's life's been pretty hectic lately. This whole thing remember, because Aunt May, quote unquote, supposedly died in issue 195, but it was really faked by Mysterio that led into the burglar. And even before that, Spider-Man had to face off against the Kingpin, in a midnight battle that determined whether or not the Kingpin was going to go back to his life of crime. And so Spidey, it's been busy. He's not been able to keep up on current events.
Mm-hmm.
But he had, however, gotten a job with the Daily Globe as Jonah had fired him because Jonah's been slightly getting more psychotic since issue 190. Where Spencer Smythe was in control of John Jameson, and John fell off a bridge and got zapped into another dimension where he hung out with Richard Rory or whatever, Man Thing, whatever. I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
Didymus wants to know how long you worked for the Globe. I think about the 220s. I mean,
we're gonna get to we'll get
okay,
that.
Didymus, hold up, buddy.
Hold up. We'll get to that. But anyway, so about 95, 96, 94. I forget exactly. In fact, I went and researched it, and of course, I didn't put it down in my notes. But Peter started working for the Daily Globe because Jonah, like I said, Jonah's getting more psychotic. He blames Spider-Man for his son's death, so he just said, Peter's always had this connection with Spider-Man I've never liked. So Peter, you're fired. Robbie decided to give Peter a job anyway behind Jonah's back. Peter couldn't do the job because it just so happened that as Spider-Man, he got handcuffed to Jonah by Spencer Smythe, 190, 192. So Peter couldn't do that. So Peter's burned all his bridges. He's done with the Daily Bugle. But KJ Clayton, the mysterious publisher of the Daily Globe, told Barney Bushkin, the editor-in-chief, look at those photos. I want Peter Parker. So Peter becomes the chief photographer of the Globe, gets a nice office, and then he draws the attention of this young blonde reporter by the name of April May, who keeps trying to connect. Hey Peter, I love your photos. Hey Peter, we should do something or whatever. And of course, Peter's off, doing Spider-Man stuff. He doesn't have time for her. But anyway, so Robbie gives Peter an update of what's going on at the Bugle. And because Robbie has quit as well. Jonah's behavior was getting just more and more psychopathic all the time. And so Robbie quit around issue 197.
It's like working for Brad. More and more psychopathic as it goes on.
And so Robbie quit, and Jonah, the board of directors of the Bugle called Jonah in and said, Jonah, we don't like what you're doing these days. And of course, it's one of those times where, Jonah, does Jonah own the Bugle or not? Well, is he in control of the Bugle or not? But anyway, so right now he's answering to a board of directors, and they're questioning his judgment. And Jonah goes on a rant and literally collapses from a nervous breakdown right then and there, and is committed to a psychiatric hospital. So, Peter is finding out that things are just really, really bad. A lot of drama going, and there's a lot of drama going on everywhere. And, and it also, it seemed like Wolfman was developing I thought it was an interesting direction for Jonah, because there's one moment during all this where Jonah is saying, I'm alienating everybody I've ever loved, everybody I cared about, and I can't stop myself. So I thought we were going to get some good introspection into Jonah's character over time. Well, anyway, so Robbie and Marla visit Jonah in the psychiatric hospital. And of course, Jonah is off his rocker, and he chases both of them out, says he never wants to see either one of them again. And then Jonah goes in for a session with his shrink. And Oh yeah. Jonah's goes in for a session with a string, and Spider-Man, of course, Peter, having heard the condition Jonah's in, unwisely decides to peek in. Jonah sees him, and because it's easy to walk out of a psychiatric hospital, just like that, because any middle-aged man, Jonah is able to escape from a psychiatric hospital.
Well, Sarah Connor did it, but she had some Terminator help.
Yeah. Which I just think is funny because, like I've said, my daughter is a probation officer. She works like on the 7th floor of the Justice Center building, and she's told me stories of like people who are about to get arrested, or they get presented with the results of their drug, whatever, and they decide to try to run away. Well,
not easy to do, huh?
They don't even get to the elevators. And even if they got to the elevator, by the time they got downstairs, they'd have a welcoming committee. So, but one thing that gets answered though is it looked like during the Smythe thing that Jonah had taken off Spider-Man's mask, but as we find out now, he really didn't. Jonah didn't have a chance to. That's the plot ended.
So Jonah can break out of an asylum, but Norman has to have Spider-Man come in and rescue him and get him out of one. This is what I'm hearing, JR, Mr. Goblin Fanatic. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, I think Norman was held with a little more tighter security. I think he was Jonah wasn't really in a place for criminals. He was in a, again, I don't know. Maybe security was lacking early 1980s. I don't know.
This issue also has some great looking art by Keith Pollard, who penciled the first appearance of Felicia Hardy over in 194. And I love, and George and I have talked about this, the multiple Spider-Mans because he's moving so fast. Several artists do it, and Keith Pollard. I have a frame picture of Keith Pollard's. I think it's Amazing 186, where it's a very similar pose to this. And it's just awesome.
You know who will always be the master of that for me?
Friends.
Oh my God.
Friends did a great job.
Yeah.
Hey, Venkman, thank you for the super chat.
Hey,
we've got a question for JR. Following Marv Wolfman, we get Denny O'Neil in the title. You said in the past that most of his Amazing Spider-Man run was written by interns. Do you have a source for that?
Okay.
JR needs no sources.
No. Hey, wait a minute. Who do you think I am? Dark Mark, the Credible Hulk?
The Credible Hulk, yeah.
But actually, there is a source, and it wasn't definitively stated, but I think it was more. But anyway, it was Jim Shooter's blog, and I don't know if Jim Shooter's blog is still up, but we all used to read it for a while because it was really fascinating. He had a lot of inside stories, which, depending on and then of course somebody like if Tony Isabel or somebody else on their blogs would then say he was a liar, but it was still a very interesting blog. But he didn't have any use for he basically he didn't say outright, but he indicated that he was suspicious that O'Neill did not write his own stuff, that he farmed it out. He said that Denny O'Neill could hack better than just about anybody.
Hang on a second. According to parliamentary procedure, though, these guys aren't getting paid a ton of money to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have enough money to afford to have somebody else ghostwrite it for you?
The last time the blog was updated was 2016. It looks like.
Yeah. And but again, that's not me. That was Shooter. Shooter didn't care for O'Neill. Like I said, like Shooter said, he hacked with the best of them and thought that he farmed out some of his writing chores. So that's where I get it. So that's the source for that.
Venkman, you got a source out of him. I'm impressed. Very good.
Incredible.
Just gonna make stuff up. Yeah.
So I don't make stuff up.
Oh,
I I was about to say now, Spencer's upstairs playing an Arkham Asylum game or whatever. And I said, and here I am listening to, he's listening to the voice of Mark Hamill as a Joker. And I have to listen to a couple of Bargain Basement Jokers here.
By the way, you're what you have, JR, has been diagnosed. Fear the Bean says you have MSU, making shit up syndrome.
All right. All right, Fear of the
accurate.
Beast. That's not quite enough to get on my list with Tyson and Terry Kavanaugh, but you're getting close there.
We're years away from a cure of Fear of the Beans.
He needs his second vaccine of the MSU
won't you
virus.
Please help. Just $1 a day could go to a cure.
And put JR's BS away.
Oh boy. Yeah. So you guys, I think you guys are just jealous, of my good looks, my personality, and my vast intellect.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And the fact that I've stayed so vital in my old age. So
anyway, back to the 40-year-old issue.
40-year-old issue. Yeah. The smell of rotting wood pulp gets me every time. It's better than any marijuana high.
Jeez.
So we go back to the daily, and I don't know what a marijuana high is.
Throw another new universe issue on the fire.
The only Mary Jane he knows is a redhead. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, really. I never had the guts. I danced with the devil named alcohol for a lot of years, and that's my last dance with any of that kind of stuff. But anyway,
by the way, Spider-Man is swinging away after the story, JR. Let's go.
Yeah. So, which actually is good because we go back to the Globe. Peter turns in pictures of Spidey and the Punisher bashing the goons. And of course, Barney's just absolutely delighted, but unlike Jonah, Barney rewards Peter with praise and money, and to the point that Peter's actually kind of creeped out by it.
Yeah.
It's like Barney virtually slobbers on me. So, but Barney says KJ loves these pictures, loves them. Well, when do I finally get to meet our mysterious publisher? Because we've never met KJ Clayton, and Barney says nobody meets KJ, nobody. So anyway, so he pairs off Peter with April May. April, of course, is not very, she kind of soured on Peter since he's been blowing her off. But Barney decides to assign Peter and her to cover a story at the municipal building. Well, at the same time, the Punisher is getting rather curious. He sees the cover of the first page of the Daily Globe, and he sees the pictures of Spider-Man and him taking on the goons, and he says, I don't remember seeing a photographer there. And so the Punisher...
Is that like Doug and Wendy Weiner from SNL back in the day? Joe Piscopo and...
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Robin Duke. Yeah. Robin Duke.
Yeah. You're just Wendy Weiner.
We're supposed to be on vacation.
Yeah, I remember my dad. I remember my dad walked in when I was watching Saturday Night Live, and of course he had no sense of humor, so that was I had to switch off the whiners and go watch it on another TV. So the Punisher though, he decides, well, I'm going to find out what Peter Parker's secret is. So he starts he goes into Peter's apartment and starts rummaging around with his underwear, and finds a spider tracer. And then he goes into Peter's dark room and starts looking at his pictures and says, Peter Parker is something other than he appears to be.
Good job, detective work, Frank.
Yeah, we'll see how smart Frank is. All right. Anyway, so it's the next day, and they're going to, April and Peter are taking a cab down to the city municipal building for their assignment, which is going to be watching a mobster be arraigned. Of course, the Punisher has it on good authority that's going to be the time that the mobster's goons decide to spring him. But anyway, as Peter and May or April are heading to in a cab to the municipal building, Peter happens to see Mary Jane on the sidewalk. And says, hey, stop. I got to go talk with this redhead. So Peter gets out and, he starts making some small talk and says, hey, you seeing anybody, MJ? And
because this is after he proposed and she turned him down.
This is after he proposed, after she turned him down, after he tried to date her again, and she agreed, and then he didn't show up for a date because he was shackled to Jonah, and then he called her and she told him to forget her number. But he's not, he's going to make one latch, going to go for a Hail Flutie here. And he says, so you seeing anybody? And she says, anyone and everyone.
Oh, good job, Mary Jane.
Yeah. slap. But then, of course, April's losing her patience and says, "Hey, Parker, you can pick up floozies on your own time." And Mary Jane doesn't take too well to this. So, "Hey, Petey, I didn't think you were into older women." And of course, April then calls Mary Jane a chickie. And I don't know I don't remember you ever using or hearing that term in 1980, but maybe it was in New York, maybe not in Southern Indiana. So April tells Mary Jane to go to a disco and boogie away what's left of her mind. Mary Jane tells her that warns her that her makeup's cracking, and Peter decides to get out while they
get the hell out of there, Peter.
And the taxi driver says, "Whatever you say, Mac." Anyway, so the cab goes away. April starts having a meltdown, and Mary Jane says, if you want to hold on to him, you're going to have to try a little harder. And boys and girls, that is the last appearance of Mary Jane Watson for over 3 years. She appears
even in Spec and Mary team up. No, Marvel team up. She wasn't in there.
Nope, she doesn't appear until a brief cameo in Amazing number 238. Then Roger Stern brings her back.
Good job, Roger.
New York for good at the end of Amazing 242. So Mary Jane is taking a break, and Peter is free to play the field. So
free to continue failing in everything he does romantically.
Yes,
including Deb Whitman.
That was a case where he probably wasn't good enough for Deb. Because that's a long story, though. Deb was a nice girl that for some reason, Bill Mantlo decided to dredge up the all women are psycho storyline or whatever. But anyway, that's another long.
That's a Marvel tradition, dude. I mean, look at Gwen Stacy was bipolar psycho.
It's a terrible one. I mean, it's terrible writing. It's lazy.
Hornacek is. Oh, sorry.
It's lazy ass writing. No, April May did not scare Mary Jane away. Mary Jane, I think Mary Jane was more than able to take care of herself. So So anyway, so they get to the municipal building. The Punisher gets to the municipal building, and things really look like they're gonna heat up, boys and girls. But then we take a break for an awesome 2-page ad. Boys and girls, Star Wars toy. Holy cow.
This is right after Empire came out, right?
No, it's before Empire.
Before Empire.
Hold that back up, JR. That troop carrier, the big gray thing in the center on the left.
Oh, yeah.
My dad got that for me the day that he brought that over before taking me to go see Engelbert Humperdinck in concert. And let me tell you, one of those things was really cool for a kid. The other one, not so much.
What's an Engelbert Humperdinck song? I can't even name one.
So I sing you to sleep.
Yeah, that's what he did.
After the lovin'
is gone. Oh, is it gone? Oh, yeah.
No, After the Lovin' with a song I just wrote yesterday.
Oh, wow.
You need to learn you some Engelbert Humperdinck, dude. He actually did have some good songs.
His name came up last week when I was watching a Tom Jones video, and they shared a manager together. And Engelbert Humperdinck is a made-up name, which I found out. And I'm like, why? And Tom Jones was like, why the hell he picked that? I'll never know.
I'm smart. Just like Elton John is a made up name.
Why would you have Engelbert Humperdinck as your fake name? I don't get it.
It's certainly memorable, isn't it?
It's unique, dude.
You know who
that is? I remember it. That's true.
But anyway, I mean, you could get a Star Wars Death Star space station, an Imperial troop transporter, a Star Wars droid factory, a radio-controlled Jawa sandcrawler, and then more action figures that you could possibly ever collect.
Well, they with the first Star Wars movie, they weren't prepared for the toys. They were getting ready for Empire. They were gearing up.
Yeah, that Christmas I got that Death Star.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a license to print money. How? I mean, after all, and there's no way anybody could ruin that gravy train, could they?
Wow.
No. So anyway, look at all that. Oh man, that cool. Bunch of cool stuff. All right. Anyway, after that nod to American consumerism, the Punisher sees Peter and he says, "What's Parker doing here?" And he assumes that Peter being there must mean he's involved somehow. And then the jailbreak happens, and the mobster's goons. The mobster's named Lorenzo Jacoby, which neither here nor there, but anyway, that's his name. So his goons spring him and try to take him away. And Peter changes to Spider-Man, goes after him, and he rips off one of the top of the vans, and they yell, "Spider-Man!" And then, of course, in dated references that you can only get, in these old issues, who were you expecting? Mork from Ork? Boys and girls, if you don't know. Another.
Thank you, Venkman. Venkman also had all those Star Wars toys and the Death Star. I had, from Empire, I had the Millennium Falcon, that was such a cool toy. So I never had the Death Star, though, Venkman.
I mean, and this was even before Toys R Us, I believe, was a big. I mean, it's hard to believe that you could ruin something like that, but boy, Lucasfilm certainly didn't they?
Not with Mandalorian; they've gotten it back a little bit.
So somewhere in the fine print on that ad, they're like, "Get it now before we go woke."
Yeah. So, but anyway, so Spider-Man, he's fighting these goons. And then we hit, there's a lot of cool ads.
Oh my gosh. More?
Look, Rom.
Oh, Rom.
The Rom
yes.
comic book.
That's Salvi Sima art, if I remember correctly. Also, I remember that subscription with the wreath.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember that so well.
He strikes from outer space, cleaving through the sky like a fiery sword of justice, hurtling earthward on his mission of cosmic vengeance, and nothing could stop him.
How many comics?
Find him before he finds you.
Here, look at the subscription. How many books can you order? How much do they cost?
I don't know. Oh, sensational money-saving order here. Oh, my Lord, I can't see.
You took off your glasses to see.
So he took off his glasses to see.
And they're bifocals too, boys and girls.
It's like taking off your glasses. Hang on,
hold on, I can't see.
Hold on, I can't hear. Hang on.
Let me.
Actually, that's coming. Price for 12 issues. $5.
$5 for a year subscription. Oh my God!
Wow,
I'll get you one book.
But if you're a Canadian, it's $6.
Screw you, Canada.
Yeah.
With your higher cost money, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
we don't really mean screw Canada. We like all of our Canadian friends.
Yeah. And even though they all like Celine Dion, just like all of Sweden likes ABBA. So anyway, so Spider-Man's fighting all these goons, and the Punisher's going after the goons as well. But Spider-Man runs out of New York to swing from, because they're heading over the bridge to Brooklyn, and so he's running out of places to swing from. But then again, boys and girls, I'm sorry, another ad, this time for Rom the toy. Oh my Lord. Rom the toy.
The toy.
You could this, and it's funny because Rom has come, evil is on the run. And I tell you, a little segue here. I mean, Bill Mantlo, I think, is I don't know. I think he's an underappreciated writer, because he had that accident that took him that mentally damaged him for the rest of his life. I think actually he's still alive, but he's under care. But in addition, obviously, to the great runs he had on Spider-Man, he took two toys, Rom and the Micronauts.
Micronauts, yeah.
These were toys that Marvel had licensed, and he made them great comic books. I was not a Rom fan. My brother was. My brother got the Rom comics, and I read them, obviously, because I was too cheap to get my own. But Rom was I was a big Micronauts fan. I loved the Micronauts.
It was interesting.
it kind of ran out of gas after a while. But
they had an interesting villain.
Yeah, Baron Karza.
Yeah.
And that was where Captain Universe, the whole Captain Universe concept got started, because the Captain Universe was originally a manifestation of the what was the microverse, the time traveler, and all the Enigma Force. But then again, they couldn't use the Enigma Force outside of the Micronauts, so then it just kind of became something else. But anyway, that's where Captain Universe got his start, was in the Micronauts. But Mantlo had his weaknesses. He wanted to have Spidey have a child with a black cat, which Shooter put the kibosh on. But anyway, so just a little nod there to Bill Mantlo. I think an underappreciated writer. So back to the Globe, Peter and April are going at each other, because basically Peter ran out to become Spider-Man. Before that, Spider-Man doesn't get to Brooklyn, and the Punisher's battle van, he gets a grenade thrown at him, so he sends the battle van into the river. So don't we have 3 more comments? Hornacek, are you complaining?
He's saying you spent 40 minutes on this book.
Hornacek, you're getting your money's worth. If anybody should be complained, it's Venkman. Because Venkman's the one who's putting his money where his mouth is, or whatever. So, Hornacek, I don't think you're getting ripped off. But anyway, boy, that's
wow.
Oh my.
All right.
Anyway,
back to the Punisher.
But anyway, the Punisher. So, and I have, in fact, it's your fault. Who's your fault? Because I'm going to skip the Mr. Fantastic Hostess Twinkie ad because of you, Hornacek. All right, I hope you have that on.
Hornacek says, "I just don't want Brad to cut you off in 19 minutes."
So anyway,
wow, Peter goes punishing the viewers now. JR, I love it.
Peter goes home, finds the Punisher, and the Punisher is sitting there going, "Aha! I figured you out. I know who you really are. I've learned your secret." So that leads us into issue 202, which actually we find out the Punisher's not that smart. He says, "Oh, you're playing both sides," and Peter says, "Oh no, Punisher says you had to be one of the goons that Spider-Man and I were fighting because there was no photographer there." And then Peter says, "Oh no, Spidey tells me where he's gonna be, and then I take pictures, and then we split the cash."
Oh yeah,
I get his dry cleaning for him.
Yeah, and Punisher says, "Well, that explains the spider tracer I found earlier. All right, sorry, bye," and that's it, and he leaves. So anyway, I could go more into issue number 202,
but we got 3 more issues on this one.
Anyway, this was the end of Marv Wolfman's run. 203 was a friggin' full issue ad for the Dazzler. Who gives a rat's ass about the Dazzler 40 years later? Yeah. And then the Black Cat came back, and then in the part 2 of that story, Wolfman was gone. Michelini took over, and that was the end of the Wolfman era. So now we get, Brad wants to talk about Marvel Team Up 90.
I got it queued up.
We'll get through that fairly quickly because this is a typical 1-part throwaway Marvel Team Up story. Peter's going to an ESU technology conference accompanied by exclusive to Marvel Team Up girlfriend, Sissy Ironwood. And the Beast is there also. And the Beast.
Let's take a look at Sissy. There she is.
Yeah.
There's Sissy.
Yeah, and the Beast and Peter looks like he's kind of on the diet that I've been on lately, or whatever. He's kind of filling out a little bit.
Look at Pete. I mean, man,
this was a Spider Jeopardy question one year.
Oh, it was. What was your question?
Which hero did was Sissy Ironwood interested in?
She liked the Beast.
Oh, the Beast! All these. Look at these other fingers. I mean, all these ladies were all over the Beast.
Oh man!
And
Bobcat the Sack. I mean.
Yes. So, and of course, Peter is, jealous. What do women see in him? Where's their self-respect? That seems a little harsh there, Pete.
By the way, look at Pete, man. He's gained some pounds. Look at that.
Yeah, he's gained more pounds than he did going from Ditko to Romita. Villainy rears.
That was all muscle, at least.
Only on the Spider-Man show can you make that joke. It's really, and everybody gets it.
Villainy rears its ugly head. Killer Shrike and the Modular Man. Who happened to reference an old Rampaging Hulk issue. Now, I know you guys being Hulk fans remember the old Rampaging Hulk.
That was the magazine. That was magazine Hulk,
yep.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we learned the Modular Man was a guy who was trying to learn the secrets of molecular dissolution, which you knew nothing was going to go wrong there.
Yeah, look at him.
And he, basically his molecules started separating, and somebody gave him this goofy metal skeleton, which doesn't
look in the world
absolutely ridiculous. So he's trying to. So he's trying to steal a microwave-driven cellular condenser.
He's holding a calculator. Look at him hold a calculator.
No, he's going after the condenser there.
That's a calculator.
No.
Let me see what Spider-Man would do next. I need
no
10 minutes to make my calculations.
No imagination.
I'm almost there.
Anyway, so the Mighty Man tries to steal the condenser. Peter changes Spider-Man. Shrike goes in, kicks Spidey around, and the Beast decides to take off his shirt. And as one of the ladies notes, Spider-Man is here. Another says, "Never mind that icky guy. The Beast is doing a striptease."
You actually didn't make that up, did you?
No, I did not.
That's pretty good.
Well. Modular Man and Shrike defeat our heroes and beat a hasty retreat with a condenser, and the girls offer to nurse the Beast back to health, while Spider-Man wonders why he couldn't have been bitten by a radioactive blue gorilla. All right. Spidey changes back. See, George can't take these. Everybody calls Marvel Team Up suck at JR, but I mean, look at George. George left.
George doesn't like you insulting his favorite book.
He's just bored beyond belief with Marvel Team Up. That's what happens.
We got a Spider-Man face palm in this issue too. Look at that.
Well, we find out that the condenser doesn't really work unless it has a super duper looper microwave power generator to make it work. Well,
real quick, did you see that Peter got he was rejected by Sissy with a kiss? Do you see this?
Well, yeah, because he deserved it actually. Anyway, Sissy's coming home with a piece of the Beast shirt, and she just she can't wait to. I don't know what she's going to do with it, but anyway, she asked Peter if he wants to come over because the cable TV is going to put on a bunch of new channels, which actually figures into the story. She says, "Hey, Peter, want to come by?" He says, "No, I got stuff to do, but give me a kiss anyway." And she blows him off. So he earned that one. He earned that one.
He did.
So
he did.
But anyway, so Sissy is going to keep that piece of the Beast shirt next to Eric Clapton's guitar pick. So 40 years later, it's still a relevant reference.
I don't know.
Anyway, so
I like what McNulty says. I shall destroy Spider-Man with my Texas Instruments calculator.
I forget how much those suckers cost back in the day.
Weren't they $100 or something? Those Texas Instruments things.
I don't know the original. Yeah, the original versions was really something to have if you get a Texas Instruments calculator. But anyway, I remember learning on my fingers or whatever with a strip, like a ruler strip or whatever on my desk or whatever. 1 + 1 is 2. So, public education in Southern Indiana. I'm only beaten by Missouri.
The Beast didn't like that joke. He's leaned over. Look at this poor Beast.
The Beast and Spider-Man both figure out how the Modular Man and Shrike are going to get enough microwave energy to power the condenser. Is they're going to basically the cable TV. Hey, don't you talk about my abacus? God. I mean, there are some things too personal here, bud. Anyway. So, of course, the cable TV, by putting on all these new channels, this tower is going to create all kinds of microwave energy and power the condenser, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Beast and Spider-Man figure out the gig. They show up, and they knock Killer Strike out. And basically what they do then is they figure, well, we'll shoot some electrical energy at this guy. So they knock Killer Strike out. They put his bracelets together, shoot the Modular Man with some electrical energy, and fry him.
Boom.
And that's it. That's it. Next month, boys and girls, Ghost Rider.
Oh,
another issue of Marvel Team Up.
Oh, I got the wrong explosion on the screen. That's the explosion you were talking about. Sorry. There you go. Got him with a zam.
Well,
Wow.
It's the same. He's fried. So I don't know if we see him again. So
hopefully not. The Ghost Rider and the Carnival of Souls. All right. Was that one any good? That sounded horrible.
Typical Marvel team up. You'd see it. It's one of those things where, if particularly in these COVID quarantine days, if you didn't get out and get the toilet paper in time, Marvel team up number 90 is there for you.
All right. We're going to Spec 39 for this one.
Spec 39. The issue begins with Doc Connors placing an ad in the Daily Globe. That's how
looking for ladies. What? Why?
How Dr. Connors rolls. He puts ads in the personals looking for Spider-Man, because it turns out, he said, Spider-Man, come see the one-armed doctor.
That sounds bad.
So anyway,
there's no disability JR won't make a joke out of.
I don't know why that sounds bad. By the way, this is an early John Romita Jr. art. Look at that. I love that pose. That looks so good.
So Spider-Man says, cool. Doc, I don't think that we have that kind of relationship, but what do you want? Well, anyway, as you recall, boys and girls, last time Dr. Connors was the Lizard, and Spider-Man also faced off against the Iguana. All right. Yeah. He used a backpack, an innovator backpack, to zap the iguana and turn him back into a little iguana and turn Doc Connors back to the Lizard. But Doc Connors is afraid that it wasn't sufficiently shielded and Spider-Man may have absorbed some feedback. And so Spider-Man says, no, I feel fine. Look at me. I'm a superhero. I'm picking up things. I'm crawling the walls. And anyway, so Connors is secretly scanning him. And he says, I don't know, Spider-Man's a little edgy. Basically he destroyed all these experiments and stuff and didn't even say whoops. So, and then of course we find out that Spider-Man's his blood is undergoing some changes. So then we go to ESU where we meet Pete's fellow student teachers. Phil Chang, who continues to show up over the years, most recently as during Slott's Parker Industries run, Steve Hopkins, who disappeared as soon as the student-teacher subplot ran out, and Marcy Kane, who is secretly an alien, which we find out in, of all things, the Jack of Heart miniseries. Yeah. Jack of Heart's another mediocre character who couldn't qualify for his own title, but could qualify to be an Avenger.
Marcy Kane, an actual early literal version of Poochie D. I have to go back to my planet now.
So anyway, they're flashed back into a Halloween party, which we saw a few issues ago, where fellow student teacher Chip Martin started under pressure because Morbius, the living vampire, decides he's going to attack all these babes at this party. And when you're attacked by a Jared Leto, pale Jared Leto living vampire, you do kind of crack under the pressure. And so Chip, under the pressure, starts displaying these latent psychic powers. Morbius does not get eaten by sharks, but he does get zapped by lightning, and is cured temporarily. Anyway, Chip drives away. So anyway, we're coming back now. The senator, Chip's dad is a U.S. senator. So he's on campus trying to settle things with the university, and Chip happens to show up. He resents being institutionalized all these years because he got all these powers because of some drugs his mother took. Some good drugs during pregnancy, and they institutionalized him and medicated him, and seemed to have eventually helped him get over his problems, but then they manifest themselves when Morbius attacked. So Chip is going bonkers. He he comes up with all these illusions, tries to throw a bunch of knives at his dad, kill his dad. So Spider-Man, Peter's showing, and the reason Peter's got some patented Norman Osborn crazy sweats because Peter's starting to get a little ill-tempered. So he changes to Spider-Man and starts to just really get angry. Yeah. You wouldn't like him when he's angry. And so he proceeds to go to the Schizoid Man and basically literally start beating him to death. Yeah. And Dr. Connors is able to restrain Spider-Man and talk some sense into him. And then Spider-Man, runs off, so Spider-Man swings away, metamorphosis happens. And at the end, Spider-Man becomes Spider Lizard.
No.
And becomes
There you go.
merchandisable for decades later.
I don't think they've ever made a Spider Lizard, have they? Action figure?
I'm pretty sure they have.
I know they made a man spider, but I don't think I've ever seen a Spider Lizard. I could be wrong. Audience, if you know one, feel free.
Yeah, if you know one, let us know. I thought they did.
Somebody made a Spider Lizard something at some point.
Yeah. So, and anyway, actually, the next issue we do have a Spider Lizard going on a rampage, but nothing much happens. Spider-Man goes up, Spider Lizard goes rampage. Kirk Connors finds him and cures him. The only real Schizoid Man has made a few very minor, inconsequential appearances in later years. Actually, the most significant aspect is his father, Senator Martin, because Roger Stern had planned to use Senator Martin as a Hobgoblin suspect. And when in Hobgoblin Lives, they brought Senator Martin back, and part of his motivation, theoretically, if he had been the Hobgoblin, would have been to have used Hobgoblin identity to take revenge on Spider-Man for, brutally beating his son. So that was probably the most significant part of that issue.
So we've got one more. We've got What If, number 19.
Boys and girls. And according to, how much time do I have, Venkman?
4 minutes.
All right. All right. This is a classic. This is the first volume of What If. I thought was excellent because they went back to the old Marvel stories. They went back to the origins, and they told stories that unfolded you could see them unfolding the way they did if things have been different. They were able to do this partly because What If at that time, the first volume, was double sized. So, earlier months you saw we were paying 40 cents. With What If we were paying 75. Yeah, no capes. That's right. Actually, Daredevil says that in this very issue.
Yeah.
So
Spider capes.
So what happened here? This was the first alternate universe story that told where What If Spider-Man stopped the burglar. And I always used to like the original What If. I didn't like the later What Ifs because, one, they took more recent events and that weren't classic events really, and a lot of them just turned into excuses for the writers to kill off characters as sadistically and brutally as possible.
To show that splash page again, Brad.
With Uatu?
Yeah, Watcher looks like Telly Savalas.
Hey, what if Spider-Man?
He's just had his wisdom teeth removed too. But this is actually a pretty good story. In this one, actually, Spider-Man's TV career is going relatively well, and the burglar happens to run by. But this time, Spider-Man actually, when you think about it, makes a decision that was pretty easy to make. He just says, you know what? Why don't I get this guy, webbing, and I'll look like a hero, and I'll be able to, use this to, and he does. He captures the burglar, unlike the agonizing, the kind of agonizing standing there saying, this isn't my problem, this is your problem, blah, blah, blah. Which, which is why I don't like really messing with origin stories because, most classic superhero origin stories don't need to be changed because they don't need to be improved. But I like that. I like kind of the tweaking that Sam Raimi did to it in the movie, where he had the wrestling promoter rip off Peter, so that when the burglar stole his money, Peter, he could have stopped him effortlessly, but just out of just sheer spite, he didn't do it. And therefore then set off a chain of events that, he will obviously regret for the rest of his life. But anyway, so Spider-Man captures the burglar and, it's in the paper, Spider-Man's TV star hero. So without crime fighting mucking up Spider-Man's TV career, he starts to make movie deals. And one time, while he is guest hosting for Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show, and it's hard to believe Carson's been gone since 90. He retired in 92, and then he died a few years later. But
real quick, I just saw this thing where he's talking to the publicist. Look at the alcohol on the shelf. It's Old Ditko.
I had never noticed that.
Ever drink a little Old Ditko?
Old Ditko.
Sometimes at the end of a long day, I can't wait to just sink down in my chair and get a little old Ditko in me.
By the way, thank you, Vinkman. The closest thing to Spider Lizard action figure that I could find is the 96 Spider-Man Arachnophobia Man Lizard from Toy Biz. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have. I would have thought there'd been a pop and everything.
I mean, seriously.
I guess I don't know. I guess my chances of finding a Spider Lizard pop are about as good as finding a Cara Dune pop these days. Anyway.
ES wants to know if George ever saw Spider-Verse. Well, since we're venturing off just a little bit,
still never seen it. Not ever planning on seeing it. There's literally nothing to interest me.
Okay.
All right. Now, ES, you're taking away time from Hornacek because Hornacek wanted me to get through these issues. So anyway,
Tonight Show.
Johnny, I mean, many of you young folks probably don't remember how big Johnny Carson was.
Huge,
but,
huge.
He was, definitely.
I would argue that he was the most trusted man in America.
Yeah.
Either him or Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
I would.
But unfortunately, I think Johnny Carson turned out to be was unfortunately a rather loathsome human being. Apparently,
but behind the scenes, yes. But I like the public persona. I think that's like, I mean, he was in everyone's homes nightly.
Oh yeah,
everybody watched Tonight Show,
and he made careers. I mean, that was your thing. If you wanted to be if you wanted to be a comedian, top flight comedian, or get your movie noticed, appearing on Carson. But unlike Jay Leno and David Letterman, who never took time off, except in Letterman's case where he had heart surgery, Carson was always taking vacation, so guest hosting was a thing on Carson. So anyway, but Spidey is hosting Johnny Carson and John Jameson. Now, see, Brad's moving forward because he's trying to subtly hint for me to move forward. But anyway, while Spidey is hosting the Tonight Show, he's not there to save John Jameson, and it's Amazing One. So John Jameson dies upon re-entry into the atmosphere, which just obviously devastates Jonah. Peter decides to tell Aunt May and Uncle Ben, "Hey, I'm Spider-Man," and they don't take to it too well. Uncle Ben says, "Wait a minute. As with your intellect and now these superpowers, you ought to use them for the good of humanity." And Peter says, "Gee, are you kidding, old man?" And basically, walks out. Which Peter's 15, 16.
Yeah.
He's on the cusp of fame and fortune. Yeah, I can see it. So anyway, excuse me. So Peter he goes to Hollywood, starts making movies. His first movie premieres, and it's starring Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman in the Amazing Spider-Man.
That's good. I like that.
Which boys and girls, you remember when this first Superman movie
appeared,
and it starred Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman.
And Christopher Reeve was like third billing.
He was third billing in his own movie. But a lot of that was that basically a lot had to do with the fact that that's how they got investors for it.
Yeah.
By getting Brando and Hackman.
Oh, I remember this next panel. Look who Spidey takes to the premiere. She's in a spider dress.
Yeah. So Spider-Man, he's on the red carpet and he humiliates Frederick Foswell because Jameson has the same problem with superheroes in this universe that he does in our own reality, except it's sharpened a little by the loss of his son. Mm-hmm. So Foswell goes there and tries to spring a Jameson question on Spider-Man. He says, "Let me guess, you're from the Daily Bugle, right?" So Jameson doesn't take that too well. So he tells Betty Brant, he says, "Brant, Betty, get your boyfriend in here." And Betty says, "I'm on my coffee break." And Jonah says, "Back in my day, we didn't have coffee breaks. We didn't even have coffee." So he does say that. So he wants Ned to go ferret out Spider-Man's secret identity, which he does. And the Daily Bugle posts Peter Parker as Spider-Man. And Peter goes, "That was going to be our gimmick for Spider-Man 2. It says, "Well, Mr. Jameson, you've just earned an enemy here." So anyway, so then in the Daily Bugle, gunmen in Spider-Man masks show up, and they come after Jonah. And Jonah says, "Wait, Jameson's not here. I'm just the copy boy." But Spider-Man, then the boss shows up and says, "Jameson, you're going to get what's coming to you." But what he does is he presents Jonah. He says, "Since you revealed my identity, Spider-Man, your movie, loved it. My idol, saw your movie 3 times." But anyway, so Spider-Man presents him with the Spider-Man Award for Investigative Journalism Excellence, which is kind of a veiled threat. It's like, I know, it's kind of like I said, it's a veiled threat. Jonah knows he's been warned off. It's like this time, fine, but next time, it'll be worse. So Spider-Man goes, but then Spider-Man decides he's going to become an agent and become a licensing and promotion agent for other superheroes. So he signs up the Fantastic Four, he signs up the Avengers, signs up the X-Men. He says, with me as your agent, think of what it'll do for human-mutant relations.
And if you don't sign up, I'm going to whoop all of you.
Sign with me and end racism.
Which is kind of funny because if something like this had happened, where you have a popular movie star promoting superheroes, and particularly ones on the, I wonder, the Avengers will be treated with the name it deserves, and I'll get you in the movies, boys and girls.
Yeah.
But so anyway, a new superhero shows up in a really terrible yellow and red costume by the name of Daredevil. Spider-Man convinces him to sign with him. Says, well, don't you need an agent to help you if you're a vigilante working outside the law? So Spider-Man, he said, so his people come up with a costume, an all red costume, because the yellow and red is like a hideous costume. But Daredevil doesn't take too well to the cape and the trident that.
Look at that thing.
So basically, he does say no capes.
No capes. Spidey.
Daredevil, Lord of Atlantis.
Yeah. So, and Spider-Man also buys a comic book company. So,
he does.
Yeah. So, if you go to there, basically he says, I want Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man to come out monthly. So anyway, we're running out of time here. So Spider-Man goes to Hollywood, makes his movies. Daredevil, though, goes out because he's heard on the street that there's a contract out on Spider-Man. And, it turns out that during a fighting session, Spider-Man has like a workout session with martial arts guys to keep him in shape and keep him sharp. Turns out one of them's Kraven the Hunter, slashes him with the claws and poisons him. So Spider-Man says, I don't know why anybody would want to kill me. I'm just an actor. He tells his script writers, he says, I don't want any more artsy fartsy stuff in my movie. No more meaningful dialogue or anything like that. Just action. And by the way, Daredevil's going to be in it too. Well, Daredevil. Well, anyway, also what I forget happens is when Spider-Man's promoting Daredevil, Jonah's had enough and he decides to sue Spider-Man for promoting vigilantism. Spider-Man decides to take revenge. He follows Betty Brant, finds out Betty Brant's making payoffs to the big man. So Spider-Man follows the big man, finds out he's Frederick Foswell, tips off the Daily Globe, and basically implies that Jonah is part of it. But even though Jonah's innocent, the board of directors of Bugle decides that there's a taint that they don't want anymore. They try to get Jonah to take an emeritus position. Jonah quits. And then Foswell meets with him and asks him, if you run the rackets for me on the outside, you can use my organization against Spider-Man. Jonah says he's not a criminal, but he thinks about just how he's lost everything now. He has nothing anymore. His wife is dead. His son is dead. He's lost his paper. So he calls Foswell. But anyway, this meeting with the writers where Spider-Man tells him you're going to rewrite it at Daredevil. Turns out they're really the Sinister Six, or actually 5 of the Sinister Six, 5 the classic guys and 1 guy in a cloak. Daredevil tries to take him on. Peter, of course, is not used to fighting for real. And Daredevil's getting the crap kicked out of him. So Peter decides to suit up. And of course, during this time, Peter is drawn really poorly with really bad 70s hair.
Look at that. Oof.
He's not drawn very well either. It's not recognizable as Peter Parker.
Wow, that's Peter Parker?
Yeah, that's Peter Parker. So anyway, but Peter decides to take on the Sinister Six, and actually he beats them fairly quickly. 1, because we're running out of time, and 2, because they're actually not, they really don't know what he can do. They've ever faced him before in a fight, so he defeats him pretty quickly, but finds out that the ringleader is none other than Jonah himself. And defeating Jonah again pretty well shatters the man's mind. And, Jameson says, you've destroyed my life. And Spider-Man, he says, I did, didn't I? I really did. And then he looks and he sees Daredevil. He says, I destroyed Jonah's life. I nearly resulted in Daredevil getting beaten to death. Uncle Ben was right. I should have used my powers for good. I used them for my own greed and self-interest, and look what's happened. So once again, Peter Parker learns that with great power, there must come great responsibility. Not a perfect issue. Peter seems to be a little bit too corrupt too easily. I think Jonah would need a little more emphasis to become a criminal, but overall, I think this is a classic what if story. It's a very good what if story.
It's done in essentially two because it's a double size, but
yeah, and Peter Gillis, the writer, also wrote another great what if story a couple years later. What if Uncle Ben had lived and Aunt May had died?
And the artwork was much better by Ron Frenz.
Yep. And it was but it was also a good story. Again, the old what ifs are very good because they did very logical extensions, of the story. So anyway, it was a good month.
I was just going to ask you, February 1980 was a good month, even including Marvel Team Up 90.
Even in Marvel Team Up, because like I said, we still had Wolfman on Spider-Man. We had Mantlo on Spectacular. And we had a classic what if issue, so we can put up with the we can put up with a few girls trying to molest the Beast, and
that's funny. All right, we will be back in literally 30 seconds. We've got March 1974. Is that what we're doing? I think.
Yep.
All right, we'll be back in just a second.